I was tired of the bullshit in the digital industry and the like saying this.
And
is
Marc
what
goes
our
way
numbers-
back with like this industry of like having to deal with everybody when he founded Tube Filter and being around every one of the original web series filmmakers and everything. So like it's never stopped. And I think that we finally hit, I think, the absolute like climax of it with last year with the Defies and the Super Deluxes. Like that was just like, okay, can we all be honest about what we all are? And we actually probably could have gotten farther along at this point if we were all honest the whole time.
In this episode, we talk with Rafi and Marc Hustvedt. They both lead one of the most successful studios creating entertainment on YouTube. Rafi and his brother Benny are founders of Fine Brothers Entertainment, which operates 3 successful channels: The Fine Brothers, The Fine Brothers 2, and React. Marc Hustvedt was recently appointed CEO of FBE, and Marc has an impressive record in establishing and managing other digital-first companies, such as Tube Filter, the Streamy Awards, and Super Gravity Pictures.
This is Creative Disruption, the intersection where entertainment, data, and creativity meet. Here's your hosts, Ricky Ray Butler and Derral.
Welcome back to the Creative Disruption, where we literally try to find the most creative people that are actually disrupting the industry. I'm really excited for today's guest because I've watched their stuff for a very long time and I'm very entertained by it. But before we get into it, Ricky, hey, how are you doing? Are you doing good?
I'm doing fantastic.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So
thanks for asking. I appreciate it.
Well, I just wanted to see how you're doing, But, today I was like actually reading an article on Article 13. So an article on Article 13.
That's a delightful topic to start with.
Well, we got to have some discussion to start this out. Like, what's your thoughts on it?
Well, I think it's going to make
first off, like, people probably don't know what Article 13 is.
Yeah,
and how
give a quick summary.
Basically, it's a European law that is going after some fair use and some other things, and it's going to really make it hard for people to actually do memes, which I really think is going to create World War III.
Do memes as well as it could affect video uploads and it can affect a whole lot of things.
No, absolutely. The coming generation, like Generation Z, I really do believe this. It's like they're very meme driven, and if you take away that, they're going to throw a tantrum. Have you ever seen Generation Z throw a tantrum before? It's pretty bad.
I think you can find a couple every day on Twitter. Well, so my honest opinion is it's going to get a lot of politicians unelected, and rightfully so. And I think a lot of it, is being inspired by those that probably do not understand technology or the platforms and the value, being able to do those kind of things online and on YouTube or Tumblr or all the different platforms. I personally think it's ridiculous, and I don't think we'll start World War III. I think what's going to happen?
No, dude, seriously,
I think people are going to get educated, and they're going to understand how media is different today than it was 50 years ago. And they're going to be changing their tune really quickly. I think they're probably starting to.
I hope so.
Because there was so much hate around this. I think they're just going to be forced to educate themselves and hopefully pivot into a different direction.
Well, I watched the Senate hearings with Sundar, with Google, and also Mark Zuckerberg, and some of the questions that was coming out of the politician's mouth. So I'm like, I got this phone here.
And if I go over there with
it's an iPhone, and if I go over there, can you track me? Can you track me? Like, wow. We elected these guys? I don't even know what state that guy was from. So, but anyway, there's a lot of dynamics, and I think one of the main issues when new technology and platforms and creatives come in, it really disrupts the industry. It disrupts laws because there's new things happening now that never happened before. Like right now, you have people that are suing Fortnite because of the dance, social dance. And there's like a law back in 1976 that says, look, social dance is okay and you can copyright law, but where is the lines? I think a lot of this will be defined. And I do believe that there will be a revolt if you take away memes from people. Like I got teenagers, I got kids, I'm telling you, it's like that is their life. Like they create memes every day. They're creating memes for their friends. They're using it there. And you take away that ability, that's going to cause a lot of very angry teenagers, which is going to cause a lot of angry parents from my perspective.
Oh, well, it's going to cause a lot more than just angry teenagers. I think I think all demographics love memes.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean,
maybe not. Maybe
I
not
like
the,
memes.
Well, that's
I'm
actually
36. but no, I agree. I think this is going to be a harsh lesson for a lot of leaders to learn, and hopefully, hopefully they're not stubborn and keep fighting this, because it could get.
Well, it's going where the money's trying to dictate, hey, we're losing control over this with news and so on and so forth. Let's kind of lock it down. And they're persuading politicians. They have lobbyists. I truly believe the new creatives out there need lobbyists too. It's just like, really at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that are transforming, and the old way of doing things should be left in the dust, like left behind, because...
See, that is the thing, is I would assume like Facebook and Google and like Tumblr should be able to afford more lobbyists.
I don't know.
These traditional like media groups, but I'm probably wrong.
And maybe when they're talking to the politicians, they just don't communicate it very well because they don't understand technology or something.
Right.
Well, I'm really excited for today's guest because one of basically some of their content is some of the best I've ever seen online. I actually it's one of those that gets you to laugh and laugh and laugh again and share their content. One thing is I actually have a personal story with them, and I don't even know if they know this.
Okay.
But
is it okay for me to act like I'm here at this point?
No, you don't act.
It's like they, and I'm like, but I'm right here.
But it's a good segue to introduce.
Thanks, Rafi.
But I worked on a project where this group called Studio C actually had an amazing video of a bully going and getting hit in the face.
Scott Sterling!
That's right, Scott Sterling. And it was so amazing. And the Fine Brothers reached out and says, hey, we want to do a reaction video. And that actually did quite a bit for us. So that's who we have on today, is the FBE Fine Brothers. And do you want to do a little intro?
Yeah. So FBE, super excited to have the CEO Marc here, and the co-founder Rafi here. Yeah. And
now you can talk, Rafi.
All right, sweet.
You guys are now in existence.
Yay!
But I go back a bit with these guys as well. I used to claim that I was their first
subscriber,
brand deal, brand integration, or brand collaboration. But I think we're actually number like 3 or 2.
It's very close. It's very close.
But I mean, it was with, I think, like Just Dance 2.
We did a Just Dance video that still was when Benny and I were still in videos here and there. And so
did you have a team back then?
No, not really. When we would do something for Comedy Central, or we would do something for Break, or different websites and different platforms, then we would hire people to work with. But other than that, we were doing something like that for the YouTube channel, especially when it was more in the infancy of YouTube channels. It was, what team? Back then, that was not the idea of what you were able to do, is hire enough people back then.
How many people do you have today?
Well, I'll be the suit here. Sure. With
sweater.
82 people at FB, all in Burbank. Actually, we have one in New York.
Yeah.
So we have one salesperson in New York.
Yeah.
81 in Burbank. It's quite exciting.
Now, when you first started this and you started creating videos on YouTube and uploading them, did you ever in your right mind think that, oh my gosh, I'm going to have 82 employees that are going to depend on me?
Yeah. It's an amazing gift to now be in that position, to be able to employ people and such. But originally, 82 people, but maybe that was going to be for a feature film we're doing. 82 people for a TV show that we're working on, not our own business and operation that was going to have 82 people. If it was going to maybe become a production company, you have a few people working for you. Right. Then you scale up, you scale down. The goal was never to have a running 24/7, always on, 365, nonstop, making 20 videos a week to, survive on this crazy internet and disrupting on how it all works. But that was not the original idea. No, I don't think anybody really understood that it was going to become the supplier of jobs and supplier of art and creativity that it is today.
I work with a lot of creators, and some of these people are literally killing themselves because they don't build a team.
The burnout.
It's so real. It's so real. That burnout is so real.
Yeah. It's hard for most. It's not as big of a deal now, but I remember 3 years ago, it was hard for most to have a freaking editor.
Well, no, even today it is. Like seriously,
I still have the conversations with people where they just don't. It is so bad. It's a weird. It's like I think it's part of the fear of being a CEO, fear of being a business owner and a manager. Like you have to actually manage people. It's like all of a sudden you're stepping into a different area of creativity that like is not as easy for people to understand how to lead. Right. When I think the art that naturally gets created on YouTube and Twitch and Snapchat is a singular person. And so the idea that then they have to figure out how to do it with more than just a singular person is not necessarily the first thing that they're good at. Right. So they're fearful of that. And then the authenticity thing is still the major part where they think that the audience isn't going to want them to have a team.
Oh, well, they'll notice a difference if they do have a team. There's something going to be gone from the juju, the magic, right?
And it's just like, just stop. Just be honest with everybody. Right. They're all going to be thrilled for you. Right. And we've had this conversation nonstop and helped people build their teams for years now.
So for me, I like to always figure out what's the first employee. Like who do you bring on first? I know a lot of creators want to bring on an editor. I wouldn't necessarily agree that that's the best thing to do. It might be for their sanity down the road, to have a really good editor that's there, but literally someone that can assist them, an assistant that can run and do all the little errands and check email and respond to people, all that other stuff. Like some of these creators, they actually need someone to manage them and their time. And that would actually free up a lot more bandwidth for creativity and so on. But like, what position was your first hire? What was you looking for?
See, it dives into two different things because in a way it's like, we had a different kind of situation of when we were going in and hiring into being a company really for the first time, which was part of the YouTube channel, the YouTube 100 channel initiative. Yeah. So that was allowing us to make a long time ago. And that was when we opened an office because it was pretty much like we were making a TV show with my music, which is what my beanie is. Yeah. And that was making a TV show. So we, just like a TV show, we scaled up to have an office. So that was realizing we were going to have a bunch of money in the bank, having to actually be a corporation, and who do you hire first? And that became a really trusted, almost like businessy partner, producer that you could trust with all the money.
Right.
That anybody else that's going to come on, it's somebody that you're like, hey, all this stuff's going to be going on, but you're another person that we can like totally let in confidentially into everything. So it was a unique situation. Whenever somebody says, any YouTuber that we're talking with and they're confused about what they should do, we always say that it's one of three people. It's a editor, an assistant, or a producer. Yep. And it depends what's going on with you specifically of which one you need the most. And everybody has almost been a different person that we've advised them to be like, okay, you need an editor. And the editor has usually been the save yourself time position.
Right.
Even if you save yourself 1 hour in your day or in your week, hire the editor, because some of these people, when they're making enough money, of course, save yourself time more and more. That's where the burnout comes from. Is just save an hour, save another hour, save another hour. Hire people to save you hours. And usually a lot of people need that a lot more.
And they do need a system to communicate with the editor too, because the creators that go out and, hey, we shoot this 4-hour video, send it over. There needs to be a good way to communicate with tools. And what I love, I don't know if you guys use this, but frame.io, I love that. It's just so amazing because they can actually export files and you can communicate via either Final Cut or Premiere and give very specific moments in it of what you need to change in that application. I can do it on my mobile phone. Like I was actually doing it before you guys got here. And what's great is then I don't even have to, I can watch the video, say, oh no, you want to change this. I can circle things and do all that other stuff. It's great. It should be a sponsor.
Is this a live read? It sounded like a live read.
Wow.
That was a minute read right there.
Work on that, Ricky. Work on that. Let me finish the question. But so they need tools. Like, what was some of the systems that you put in place? Like when you bring people on, how are you creating systems? Because 82 employees.
There's so many processes.
You have to create processes. If you don't have processes,
you want to speak to when you came into the company. Yeah. And that's always something that's always made me feel vindicated by anybody that's come on that's from a higher echelon of their own companies and what they've accomplished. And I'm a fan of theirs and I'm interested. Okay, Marc's coming on to this team. I've been a huge fan of his. What does he think about our processes? and he came in.
I mean, absolutely remarkable. First of all, I had to, it was like day one, come on as the new CEO. I had to go get FBE certified. I couldn't have access to the analytics until I got FBE certified. I did audience. I'd already been YouTube certified years ago. I realized there's a whole new way of doing things. Massive features. I'll be honest, I did not fully know existed or were used.
How to utilize them.
They're like power users of some of the tools within YouTube. And I later found out they exist because FBE was the squeaky wheel that really
to this day, we're always pushing all the platforms of do you not realize this feature, how much everybody would love you if you just built this one tool every time. We're always doing that.
Because I love the tools.
Not all of them. Just there's definitely a few that we don't officially can't say.
If we unpack seriously what got FBE out of being, because it's a single heart. I've seen this a lot with small creator founded media companies, which is really what this is. I think there's this whole class now that really when you sort of post MCN world, because all the capital, and again, just to be the suit here, all the capital went into these either big fancy media ideas that people who fell out of TV were going to create a vertical in this thing, and they're going to spend a lot of money, very sort of top down, and then eventually figure out how to make short form video. And then of course the aggregators of the MCNs raised a whole lot of capital, but really passing through all those dollars. Well, underneath all that, many of them who never raised any money and were profitable all along, were companies like FBE. And no one really talked about them in the same way.
Knew that they were really the reason that the MCNs were valuable.
Right.
Yeah. Because the MCNs weren't actually doing much.
that could be a whole podcast in itself. But I hate MCNs.
But really it is a, there's a couple of things that make the company really special. And one of them is process. The two brothers understood the power of process and the importance of process down to really specific checklists about how things are made, efficiency of time. And it goes back to the origins. In their apartment, they literally had each wall was a different set, and they just turned the camera.
Or you could call Benny's room.
Yeah, it was just Benny's. It was Benny's room. Yeah, and it's still that DNA never left, because there never was this. There was never raised any outside money. There wasn't this we need to artificially grow. Everything was a deliberate choice. Anyways, it's really remarkable. I think probably a lot of it has to do with Benny working for Disneyland or Disney World for 10 years.
It was we have a knack for this stuff, but a lot of the things that we even instituted to this day are a variety of different management policies and the way that you handle or employees, or the way you just have across the board policies are oh yeah, that's Disney orientation, because he worked there for 10 years at Disney World.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, that was his past life.
Well, that's the thing is, systems and processes is really what sets creative free. It's really what makes it so you can scale it, makes it so you can grow it.
We're having struggles around that, though, at the same time, because there's process is great, but I think that maybe you need the right type of
creativity.
Yeah, to allow for freedom of creativity. I think that some people end up getting a little comfortable with process, that they don't feel like they need to ever break out of the mold or keep things fresh. They're the process works. Yeah. This is how we get the video views.
This is how we checked off.
Right, I did all the things. Right now, I don't have to do anything. No, creativity is always bubbling, always boiling. You're always needing to come up with more stuff. And even right now, we're kind of doing that with the team and helping them. I think that that's part of coming up with how do you build processes for refreshes and re-anchoring, and so that you don't just keep in the hamster wheel forever.
So are those 20 videos you guys create a week? Is that specific to YouTube, or is that including YouTube, Facebook, and other platforms?
Currently, it's a focus of we always think about it. Where's the centralized point? Yeah. And YouTube is still the centralized point, and then everything kind of spits out to everything else from creating on YouTube, which is pretty much at this point creating mini TV shows fully, because everything's 11 minutes average on YouTube at this point. And when you look at hot ones or anything, they're averaging 22-minute format. It's literally you're seeing people make 22-minute formats on YouTube. They're the biggest things on the platform. Even Shane Dawson, of course, making 40-minute episodes. He's making hours.
I I mentioned this to you before. You have the podcasts that are 2 hours.
Right. Even before that,
they're uploading every week. The long form content is really started to perform really well on YouTube.
Before YouTube existed, we were just viral all the time with a bunch of content. To this day, I think people don't know that was like, oh, that was the same people that now do this. We were making that thing 14 years ago that went viral. They don't even know who made it. But it was then, as an audience started to show up, was when all of a sudden it was like, oh, you can make things longer because they're actually here. They're actually coming back. And YouTube was an amazing resource for that, of building a process where people came back. That it wasn't your own website. And this subscribe button that I got obsessed with. I started watching YouTube really early and just was like, I don't know what's happening, but when we're featured on College Humor and Break.com and Heavy.com and we were on hundreds of websites every week being featured with our content. But all of a sudden when it was on YouTube, people hit this button and then they came back and they watched another video of yours. And it was like, what's happening?
You guys are so old school.
Yes.
It is.
It was the iTunes like video podcasting and YouTube that were the two places that, like, you know, when you go back, that's like the Tiki Bar TVs on video podcasting, Ask a Ninja, like.
Oh, I remember Ask a Ninja or Hope is Emo.
Yeah. And that's even where Zay Frank came out of too.
Right.
Like, and we actually talked recently about like Zay thinking about how Zay was another creator founder type that got into BuzzFeed, and look what was able to happen thanks to a creator founded person. But usually Benny and I, we were at Maker and helped build Maker, but we decided to leave Maker and started our own thing. But you had these different people, Phil DeFranco, Maker, Shane Dawson, Maker. We've all helped found that company in different ways. So you have these people of like Rhett and Link and their company, or Theorist Media with Matpat, like, but we all haven't ended up inside of like what Zay ended up doing over at being inside of BuzzFeed. And so it's interesting of what would have happened with each of us if we would have just been inside of other companies.
Right.
Who knows?
So like, and this is a question for both of you, but there are big social media firms and stuff that have hundreds and thousands of, you know, employees that are working, you know, like Disney's and, you know, Viacom, stuff like that. Like your company is going head to head with a lot of the you know, the same people, like
from just views generally, or from going after brands, or
both.
going at
I think both. I mean, you bring a unique perspective. Like, how is it you're competing with someone that has a lot more dollars and a lot more resources?
Look, having seen sort of all sides of this, when you have too much capital, your efficiency goes out the window, right? You're not thinking about batch shooting. You're not thinking about opportunities like, well, I have this talent coming in today. I can get 5 videos out of them in 3 hours, as opposed to a more traditional mindset is like, oh, I just need to shoot the thing and then they're gone.
Yeah.
And there's real sort of habits that have been built in out of necessity of survival into the FBE way of doing things, that some people, by the way, thrive in this and some people don't. So I'll say, of course, like we compete, and you'll see the YouTube trending list today where you've got Condé Nast doing some incredible. There's really creative work there. They no longer are sort of this stodgy publisher. There's like really power YouTube behavior going on there. But at the same time, I think we're doing it a lot more efficiently. I think we can be more nimble, because we don't have you don't have quite the same legacy brand concerns or advertiser concerns.
Hoops to go through.
Yeah.
There's just how many more levels of hierarchy do you have compared to like, we're 82, and so we have levels of hierarchy, but man, we can just walk down the hallway and be like, hey, I'm doing this. It's like, all right, no problem. You know, we can get past it really fast compared to a Viacom that's going to have to obviously go through a lot more to make the content the way that we're able to shift and move and get approval to move and shift budget. And it's such less to be able to just go out there and just do it. That's one of our main, and I think that when you're talking about something like Article 13 and memes generally and whatever, I think that there's a connection that, at least for now, but you are starting to see the various companies are starting to have people grow up with them that understand Gen Z, understand millennial behavior, understand the next generation Alpha or whatever it's going to be called after Gen Z. What are we calling it?
I don't even know what it's called.
Alpha? I heard Alpha.
Claim that one. Yeah,
I heard that. I didn't know.
Gen Alpha?
That's what I heard.
Wow.
I don't know. Who knows? Hasn't happened yet. But I think that at least for this whole period of time, and I think the culture that we're continuing to make sure that we have is that we will always understand what's happening in culture for young people, but also for anybody that's going through every change that's happening inside of just life and how we're utilizing entertainment. So we've been able to stay really ahead of understanding what people want out of their content. That's why, at least for now, but I totally understand and I'm excited by the continued convergence of that and the synergies that will come from it, that old media is not going to be old media. We're all going to be all the same media, but we have to be smart of how we stay on top of it and don't become the old people and the old media. Because you guys were sounding, you started like memes. It's like, don't start sounding old. We have to stay on top of it. Like, we don't want to...
Take note. I'm telling you right now.
We have to not sound old.
World War III. Well, this is the thing. Like, the two worlds are colliding, and I think a lot of that is because of the different like OTT platforms or SVOD platforms like Netflix and Amazon Prime. Everything is going digital. I mean, everyone's becoming a cord cutter, and specifically with like the influencer community, with a lot of these other streaming platforms, there's a lot of back and forth happening where there's companies like Overbrook that are creating Cobra Kai, and then there's creators that are creating Netflix series. And it seems like this is really colliding more now than ever before, and it is really one industry, which I think is great. I think it's good for everyone.
The stigma still exists, but it's still
exists.
Yeah,
right. I mean, people are always assuming that FBE or other creators that are huge out there, that is just a small group of people recording, and when it's really a sophisticated company. My question is, how do you continue to evolve with your audience, as well as being relevant to new audiences that start, coming of age and looking for new content? Because it's kind of like two different strategies, right?
Yeah, I mean, and even trying to understand what your brand is ongoing, to understand that, because we have at various points been thinking about how to go out there and find new audience and which type of new audience to try to find. And then you end up realizing just generally of like, what is your brand overall? Because you start realizing of like, you could extend into this or extend into that, but then what are you becoming? What are you trying to be, versus making sure that you stay to what you are? Because if you don't, you're also going to lose your current audience if you're trying to veer off too far to something else.
One of the biggest sort of bright spots this fall for me was our launch on Snap. And was that we took two of our shows, and they weren't React. It was Do They Know It and Try Not to Laugh, basically. And we did no promotion of Snap, not really. Like, it wasn't like throw your audience there. There were two Discover shows, and both of them right out of the gate. Try Not to a little more than Do They Know It, but both of them incredibly strong. The numbers you're getting like maintaining uniques in the millions throughout it, and Snap telling us you guys have some of the longest view durations of anyone of the discovered shows, and we've now increased our output, and more is coming on that front. But it's an entirely new audience. They're subscribing.
It's like getting like 1 million subscribers just on that show.
And they're
on Snap.
young, and it's a little more female. We're actually like a little bit more male on YouTube, and now it's like 60% female on Snap. And they're young, and all these people now are, what they're subscribing to is Try Not to Laugh and Do They Know It. And there's a little bit of like
a little FBE
in there
here or there, but that's not the name that they know.
And that was, to me, really inspiring. And I was like, because this isn't just, we haven't just figured out this great funnel because of legacy YouTube and really understanding that platform. It's actually the programming is good, and it keeps people engaged. Because we're hitting topicality. We're bringing in celebrity talent as well as top digital talent, as well as our own 200 plus React, we call it React talent, or just FBE talent pool, which are, and keeping and refreshing that and keeping it fresh. So it's, and a second point to this I'll say is that like the brand is not limited to Benny and Rafi. Yeah. And a long time ago, they made a tactical decision not to be the face of the company.
That's amazing.
And that was really smart.
The shows are, or it's like a television network, almost exactly in the sense of, we talk about even the talent is, that would be if we're making our holiday commercial that's like, thank you from NBC. It's like, that's what we kind of have from our talent that are in all of our shows and whatever. It doesn't feel, it's all these different shows with all these different people that you like to watch and, you connect with, and they're a mirror of like society. That's kind of how we build it out so that we're covering all walks of life that people can relate to. So it allows for a very interesting wide net and like capture of all broad people that want to come and watch this. And then I think the next step for the company in a lot of ways is to start figuring out like, how do you allow for it's okay, great, we have this nice broad aspect of people that are always watching and interested in watching new content and new shows, but how do you then find who you end up putting a new ripple in there and say, do you guys like this? And is this part of the demo and this part of the people that watch us like this? Okay, cool. Well, why don't you all go over here and start, starting on a new channel with this new brand, this new thing, because we can't get too specific right now. And that's actually almost a limitation of how broad and the way that the algorithms work on YouTube and Facebook, that the more that you get specific, the more that it damages the rest of your broad appeal. And the algorithm doesn't like that. And it starts sending it out to a certain amount of your people. Ugh, oy vey.
We can go on algorithms for a very long time.
Yeah,
it's fun.
That's another hour.
I want to take a step back because I think a lot of people that are watching this are, creating content or they're marketing the content from there. You brought up a really good point, and I think it was an aha moment in my career is seeing batch shooting, right? I was with the Studio C, the same one that did Scott Sterling, and it was the first time I watched in 2 hours that they did 14 actual videos that were done.
Awesome.
And I'm like, holy cow. Like this, no, it did. It
mind blown.
It blew my mind. And I'm like, we've been doing this all wrong. Like everyone's just trying to get one video. It's like, how can you actually do batch shooting? And I think a lot of people that are facing creative burnout right now, if they just learned that one principle, they probably would have a better life.
I could tell you, when YouTube used to build a playbook every year and they would revise the playbook every year, we were in there with a few different things. But one of our main ones that YouTube was always loving and wanting us to always speak on was batch shooting. Like the idea that we one of our mottos, even when we were running Maker, was we're not, and nobody's allowed to come up with an idea that we can't shoot 3 in a day of. So it always was saying 3 in a day. Is it a 3 in a day? And if it's not a 3 in a day, we shouldn't do it. So even to this day, React and things are 3 in a days. And sometimes we make it into a 5 in a day for that, or they split off and go shoot Do They Know It Also and Try Not to Laugh and a gaming episode and whatever. But we need, if it's an adult React shoot, it needs to be 3 in a day. And then that's the thing that we brought to a lot of different people. So like anybody that was involved in Maker during that time, that's what we were doing with Kasim G and Shay Carl and
on the station.
Right? Yeah. It was like, and always coming up with these formats that were like that. But then we taught Shane Dawson about batch shooting and how he had to do that for some of his shows. Like Shane Dawson and Friends was the first time that he batch shot and we directed it for him. And then we started teaching people like Rosanna Pansino or anybody like that of like, get ahead. And then some people have taken that to insane places where before Shane became so, the professional content and premium aspect of like event-based releases, he took batch shooting to a degree that I never even saw anybody do, which was like just bringing in, because he was the collab, he went into the whole collab world of just going, all right, YouTubers come in and every week I have them and I shoot something with them and then it's the next one. And so he would just bring in all these YouTubers all day long, just batch shoot everybody out. And even React, the way that we shoot it is almost like a batch shot.
Was this like back with his skits?
It was past the skits. It was once he moved over to the Shane channel and made it into basically a collab channel during the time that collab was booming and becoming like, that's what everybody on YouTube was doing, were those very simple, like, I promote your channel. We're going to, hey guys, go to their channel for this, but on here we're doing this. Shane just made that into like an enterprise. It's just like a system. It was beautiful.
Now, for you, like when you go through the process of batch shooting, I really appreciate you giving us the details on, hey, you can't do it in 3, we're not doing it at all type thing.
That depends now.
Yeah. But how much in advance do you actually plan that shoot? Like getting the thumbnail, getting the title, what it's going to be about, the whole process behind it? Because it seems like you're very process driven. Like how much time do you usually spend on that portion of it?
So we have 10 or 11 producers. I mean, so they're the ones really handling this stuff now. But we still are involved to help build the process, maintain it, help refresh it. But you could look at, if it is an Adults React episode or an Adults React shoot coming up, then it's pretty much 2 days before that, because that show, it has to have one of those episodes be what we call lightning, which has a whole specific process to make an episode that comes out a day and a half after we shoot it. Then the second episode that we're shooting is called Quick Turnaround, and that comes out a week after. So it has a specific process of what that goes through. And the Lightning has like a staggered schedule for the editor that's going to come on later in the day and work till midnight, and this so that we get as fast as possible for the producer coming in the next morning to look at it again.
Oh, that's awesome.
Then the third is more of an evergreen, doesn't have to be as topical, so that it can release 2 weeks later and still be okay. So that's where a lot of different new types of formats happen. We always come up with new things, or it's just like a band to react to. And it's not that there was a release of their album in that moment or a music video that just came out. It's more like, oh, it's an anniversary of Britney Spears' 20th anniversary of Hit Me Baby One More Time came out, which did happen October 2018. Of like, oh, well, we can shoot that and then plan that it's going to come out a little later. Or it's okay when it can come out 2 months later, even if it needs to. Every show has a different kind of thing to what I just went through but these do become things that become processes that you can then replicate for different things. And that's why we're continuing to think about how we can keep scaling for other people and help other people scale, because we want to bring on producers that have ideas and can do this, and we can help them do these things.
We observed also, like, you had to separate the idea of programming and production. And those used to kind of live all in one. I think in a YouTuber's head, right, that you try, there's everything, analytics, social media, everything's living in one. And if you're to scale a creator founded business, right, but part of my job is isolating all of those pieces into scalable units. And one of those is so Rafi has this mind of incredible programming, of thinking about when and why, like, that's too late, that's the right time to do that, or like that thing's over, and it's fascinating. And then meanwhile, you have a team that's okay, I guess we're scrapping that. You have production who's thinking about exactly how to execute that at any given moment. There's a natural tension. It's healthy inside because programming's ordering the show, sort of your network side, and studios making them. And I think as you start to get bigger, that tension is healthy. And we also realize, like, about when shows are not doing well. Sometimes you have to cancel them or decrease the order. Well, if you're the producer on a show, you're not really going to cancel your own show.
Please cancel me. I'm not doing well.
Please cancel me. That helps filter all of that, right?
You have analytics, right? And we do, we
play with a mesh of the producing team needs to understand, like, the producers. We believe in, like, they're involved. It's not just pre-production, production, and post-production. We then have, like, we have different terms for it, but we've called it post-post or live coverage, etc. That, like, you have to be a part of that too. You have to understand that as a showrunner, as a producer. You can't just stop at post and the analytics people take over.
Yeah, you can't pass that on. I think we do have an insights and channel operations team. They're fantastic people and really optimize and do give us that edge. But when you really talk about, like, a show being canceled or not, you're talking about the troop. That's power. And I mean, you're talking about 32 million subscriber channels. These are just like network level decisions that you have to have. And we realize as an organization that, like, someone who's just an analytics person isn't going to be empowered in the org to do that. And the producer isn't necessarily going to be motivated. In fact, have an incentive not to. So we really started to elevate the idea of programming within the org. And it's something we're continuing to do. It's like, do we really go full and say, let's have a head of programming? And it's something right now I've thought about.
Wow.
And there was one other part that you were asking, which was like how much is kind of done in that beginning step. And right now, I'd say that there's probably like 9 or 10 questions that are answered in that first step on Greenlight of, like, what's happening with that episode, or what type of episode is it? What does it need for the thumbnail? Like, what do they need to, et cetera. I literally have a thing that I built last week, because processes just never stop, that I want to build that out to be like 50 questions that they actually have to answer, because the company has evolved, and I wanted people to really understand that, like, this will always change. We're going to always add this into a Google form that you need to fill out that answers all these different questions, that it's going to spit out to everybody. It's going to spit out to programming. It's going to spit out to the talent bookers. It's going to spit out to PR. It's going to spit out to everybody, because you need to ask, is this a PR worthy episode? Is this going to go up on IGTV? Is this going to be a part of Zumo? Like, it's just like, is this going to go on Snapchat? When does that have to, like, there's so many questions.
Do we need to monitor the comments because this is a sensitive topic?
It's a controversial topic.
99.9% of the creators that are out there don't think this way. Like, they don't.
Well,
and it's refreshing to see it, like, 100% that you're going through the processes. And I think that's the reason why you're able to scale where you're at with all the different programming.
There is an area where the creators are seeing it this way. And the majority of the top creators, China, And that's an area of focus that we've been having, and we've been watching very close. I've been paying a very close attention to China and what's been happening over there for about 8 years. And over there, where they call creators or influencers, they actually call them KOLs, key opinion leaders.
There we go.
Hey,
and
don't bring that here. I don't want another term. No more terms, please.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they also use the word MCN.
Oh,
dear. Please make it.
No! I've been telling all the people I've been meeting with, they're like, do not use that word in the West. It's like whenever you leave this country, just don't use.
Nobody's going to want to be a part of this. Yeah.
Well, some of these people that call them MCNs are these organizations that own 300 different channels across Douyin or WeChat or Weibo. And one group specifically owns the largest KOL or influencer on Douyin, which is one of the fastest growing platforms right now in China, and it's the fastest on a mobile device.
When you say own, do you mean that they own those influencers' channels, almost like what Grace Helbig went through or something?
No,
and they own it.
They own 100% of it.
Wow.
That's
where the Try Guys go through the problems that they go through, and that's where Epic Rap Battles goes through the problems that they go. That's where.
But for some reason over here, and again.
They're fine with it. We're not fine with it.
Yeah, right. They're behind us, but they're also well ahead of us. So there's one individual specifically, is Miss Ya. She's one of the largest creators on Douyin. And she was first an employee for this, what they call, MCN or network, or I like to call studio or production company. And as an employee, came up with a couple of ideas, and they created a couple of videos. She exploded, and now she still works there. She manages a big team, and you go through their offices, and they have several. They have several hundred employees, and they have several different floors that they're on. And you see basically a picture of a creator and a team of 3 rows around this creator's picture, working on their work, and then they're optimizing. They're creating a content calendar. They're figuring out brand deals, and it's thriving. And some of these creators have 20 million followers, but average around 15 to 20 million views a video, and usually post about 4 videos a day. Wow! So things over there. I mean, and again, I don't know everything around the transparency or how the algorithms work, but my gut tells me that there's just a huge demand for content over there. And so I'm bringing it back to you. Hearing that context, have you guys had thoughts of, you have a lot of different programs happening through the FBE channel. Have you guys thought of creating a much bigger variety of channels and just really scaling this to a whole other level? 300 channels.
Yes. But I think Rafi hit on this a little bit. I think some of this is cultural, right? The way the Chinese operate and Americans operate. And I think let's be honest, we're also in Los Angeles. There's the Hollywood system is here as well. I think there is a reality to especially when the talent become very, very valuable. There's always sort of this disconnect between the interests of the company and what's happening and the power that there's a disconnect. You're just not paying them
We've seen that time and time again in each of these digital companies that have been going through this, that people do end up having to leave because, I mentioned them right away. It's like Grace Helbig, it's the Try Guys. You keep having this, people are trying to figure it out right now, including us. Yeah,
we're exploring what does that look like? How do we, especially with actually working with some more regular talent, though, you actually what does doing hot ones for us look like? And then what would the business deal that you would do with someone who you're starting out on that venture with? And we're just starting to break the ground there with some new concepts that I think you'll see. Yeah,
and it's different for them because they're not investing. I mean, they're not taking all the risk. If anything, this is something that's going to skyrocket their career.
Right. Yeah, and I still think that we want to find the way to do it really right by the creative. If this is going to be almost helping people to become if you were 2 people in your apartment. And look, 82 people could be working for you. And these ideas of can we scale our operation smartly to have these buckets that are helping them do a variety of things? Can you not build a system for them to plug into that system really well to help them achieve their dreams and achieve their goals and have an amazing community themselves? And I say I'm not even meaning this as a like an influencer necessarily. It can be, but I think it's far more of just like anything that is a community, like helping build communities is really the idea. Yeah.
And that's where everything is going.
The Game of Thrones community, it's like
Exactly.
anything is a community more than it is a show.
Yeah. And one thing that's been really frustrating for me when people use the term influencer or creator or digital celebrity, they usually try to position, so sometimes there's lots of groups that position them as celebrities. I think this is the next generation of actors and actresses. Well, kind of, but it's really the future of television. This is where television is going. It's much bigger, and there's more variety than there ever has been before.
I know they
And
can't
it's much
realize
more
that
massive than it has ever been.
they can't realize that the new Johnny Carson is PewDiePie. They can't
Exactly.
realize that Jimmy Fallon is Ninja. Like like those are both controversial names in their own degrees, but like also it's like that's part of where also a lot of television people were controversial and had various things that have happened. And yes, we've just stumbled into more levels of controversy with more levels of transparency, more levels of openness that people have. But people seem to not connect the idea that when people go, Johnny Carson, it was like he was part of the family. We brought him into our home and he brought us into his. It's like that's the same exact thing that everybody says about Twitch and about all the YouTubers. It's like Walt Disney was the first vlogger. He would be like, hi, welcome. This is about what I'm doing. And like he would do that on TV. It's like, but for some reason we can't make those connections. We were very scared and
actually never
fearful.
thought of it that way, that Walt Disney was the first vlogger.
Oh, yeah. I think things are going to become even more disruptive.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be coming from the more traditional talent side. I mean, a lot of these people that have
Jack Black just now.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh my gosh.
You have all these, creators, these mainstream celebrities, musicians, actors, actresses that have, 50 plus million followers on Instagram. When they figure it out, and when they figure out how to create content, when they figure out that there's a way for them to make even more money than getting paid through doing films or TV shows as actors and actresses, that's where I think there's going to be a really big shift. And with media consumption, when these people like yourselves build teams around them and start creating their own studios and productions.
And it's all about really, it's for the community. It's like, it's all to try to find the way that like helps even this new generation that we all would not even be talking right now if it wasn't that that kids were basically like, it started with like young millennials that are now old millennials.
Right.
But then everybody after them that was like, no, we want something different. Like, and it's like, but do you really? And that's where 10 years had to almost go by and see, are they going to stick around?
It was a very awkward 10 years, let me tell you.
It's like, are you wanting to hang out with
sure?
anyway? Yeah. And then it was amazing. If anything, they just kept being like more than expected to
and that was
never
the big
turn
thing.
back.
It's like, it's just a fad. It's going to go away. It's not exactly what it wants. But no, like the writing's on the wall that was in the process of changing. And either you understand the audience, what the audience wants, or you're going to literally kind of disappear, with things that are going on. And I've been impressed.
It's even more ruthless today
Oh my
than
gosh,
it was
it is.
back then because shows would get canceled, nothing personal. But today it's like, I'm not getting any more views and my audience doesn't love me as they once did.
Yeah. And some things are like, it's interesting. You think like, what is a show now when it is the person's life? It's like Truman Show forever. Like, I don't really like all of them are going through that because they go through their relationships and that's when they spike, or they get a baby and that's when they spike.
Yep.
And like, it's so interesting of like these things that are what is just the future of entertainment now. It's not really a show. It's that you're used to that has like a season and whatever. It's just watching somebody that's going to be live, 10 hours a day, that you can watch them play video games for 10 hours a day. And you hang out with them. And we have employees that literally leave various Twitch channels on while they're editing. It's like ASMR for them. Like it's like having a friend playing, when you used to like read a book and your friend would be playing a video game.
Yeah.
You'd be hanging out and doing two things at once and doing work while people are like doing this or that. And like, so we have employees that fully just have that on to help them just kind of like go about their day. And like maybe Mark doesn't know that, and he's like, "We need to stop this. We need to stop this."
So it's bandwidth. I'm really concerned.
No, I think it's interesting, and I think more so if the brand or the creator or the business doesn't really understand the audience, they're going to literally be left behind. And that awkward 10 years that happened, I think we're going to see another
10 years.
10 years of that, down the road. And I think what's really interesting, and I don't think people really understand Generation Z very well, it's a different way that they consume content, a different tolerance level. It's really, really interesting. And are you looking that far ahead? Okay, Generation Z, like how are we going to get this audience? How are we going to retain that with this content?
Z, at least, like we're like what
you guys got that.
We have we have Z for the most part, and like I think that ours has been a bit more. What we're fortunate about is that we did create a format that created a great funnel for getting people to want to come in and see what else we're doing.
Right.
And that's the thing. We have like a list of like 23 things. And it's like, if you're creating a show, look at these 23 things to try to make it as successful as possible. If you check every one of the boxes of the 23, then you have something that can become like React. And you could look at other things like honest trailers or game theory, like some of these things that kind of can stand the test of time, can be around forever, like do all these kinds of things and hit topicality really well and hit SEO really well. So you end up being able to find new audiences because you're covering what's culturally relevant all the time. Mm-hmm. And so the show is like, if we're going to talk about the latest music artists, the latest movie, the latest memes, like all this stuff, you're going to be getting people of all ages. And so we've tended to see, though, that for at least what we do, and because there is more thought even behind it, it isn't just crazy fun that little kids need, especially on YouTube, who like people are going right after those kids, like hardcore going after trying to get them to watch them.
Like Blippi? What was the guy's name?
Like, Guy's brilliant. He has like the best business model.
My daughter who's 3 loves him.
Amazing.
Who is this?
Is it Blippi?
I think it is Blippi. I have a 3-year-old daughter.
Like,
I'm telling you,
that algorithm is working, guys.
He dresses like a clown, kind of, and it's like a one-shot vlog, sort of, where he's playing with toys, and then
hey, let me just
slime.
So that's not our audience. Like, we don't get that audience.
You gotta get with
was it Generation?
My daughter watching.
What was that?
Right.
No, but it is.
So we've been able to capture, I guess, inside of like, we see that people like watching us when they start at like 11 or 12 because they're already aspiring to be a teenager and they're already wanting to think a little bit more. And we don't tend to get younger than that. And when we even make content like that, our older audience, even the parents that are watching, don't really want to watch that younger content.
Right.
And so that's where we even talked about how do you not stray trying to find a new audience too much, is like your bandwidth and who you have, and even 82 people, that time goes away really fast of like, what do you have them focus on? And so the idea to make enough content that is going to be good that like kids that watch Blippi are going to want to also watch FBE, not necessarily what we're looking to do.
Ballpark, right?
Yeah.
But the question is, like, when a new platform comes out, like, when do you say, oh, let's go ahead and attack and put the resources behind that?
We talk about that all the time.
But we do.
We're dealing with that with a couple things right now.
Oh, please enlighten us.
So, well, look, we have to be really honest. Is there a business there? And we're very quick to identify. First of all, you can look very quickly. Is there an ad product yet there or not? So for Snap, for us, we sort of say, okay, this is interesting enough. What's happening? Discover. You've got a very unique dynamic there. You've got sort of homepage, a little bit of algorithm, but you have a very curated experience. There's a bit of scarcity, so let's give this a shot. Pretty good programmatic ad product. A lot of ads are firing off. If you get retention, which we were doing, we started really getting, frankly, the numbers are starting to come in, and we're like, okay, but now this is worth investing more resources into.
Is that when you like double down? Like once you have that first initial test,
we did,
through,
yeah. Kind of even like right now, we're doubling what's going on Snapchat, because we build different P&Ls pretty much for each of these things. We'll just literally look. So there is a Snapchat P&L for the company that's like, well, the money that goes into Snap is based off of what it's bringing in. And that's where we're not going to fall into some of the traps of a lot of the other companies last year that we all saw go away so quickly.
Right.
When it was like, how is this, what's going on? Didn't they have a plan? Didn't they have a strategy there to not just fall to the wayside after a day, like just being like, and we have to shut our doors tomorrow. And that's where FBE has never been like, we're never willing to do that. That's why we stay profitable. And that's now even, it's great having Marc on board. It was another person that understands operationally how to think that way too, and really focus on that as we think about a new platform and how do we try to get on there and be smart and not take too many risks.
You basically have to treat your business analytics like as seriously as you treat your YouTube analytics. And that's given us edge. We literally have a P&L for every single video. And we know, because you can look at all the raw materials into it, because in a way, you're sort of, I don't like using a factory analogy, but you're making a car, but every little car is different, has some of the same pieces, but sometimes you might spend a little too much on props or some crazy challenge that you did and it didn't perform. And so you can really like objectively look at that. And now, of course, you got money from YouTube, you got if the video goes onto Facebook, that picks up revenue there. We might find, okay, that creative, well, it didn't really win on YouTube, actually found it was an Elders and the NFL reacting to that NFL anthem, and maybe that picked up on Facebook and it had a life there. So we can start to look at the same video assets. We shot the master asset, and then it's throughout its life, it's almost like film ultimates, sort of, where you would look at, like, because I used to have a film distribution company, and you'd look at that. You'd look at all the, like, here's my iTunes money, my Amazon, and so forth. And then, so you could value an acquisition. We were buying documentaries this way. So similarly, we're looking at that. We're valuing, like, okay, was it worth doing that shoot? And so then, but then you've got these platforms that'll come to us all the time. You get in your inbox or whomever, it's like, we'll do a rev share, but you very quickly see there's no there. Right. And you see there's no audience, and you look, there's no business.
So I had a follow-up question, and it's more going down a different vein. You kind of introduced something here that I find fascinating, but how do you track? I mean, if you're doing, you said 40 videos a week, or is it 20?
20 videos a week. 20 original, not releasing.
And releasing. Like, you'd be shooting who knows how much.
How in the world do you track all that? Like, do you have a team? Do you have a system? Do you have proprietary software?
I would say at this point we built proprietary tools. Using really good software that's out there. Airtable is a product I really recommend. That's like Google Sheets on steroids. You're able to ingest massive amounts of data and track. We use that across production and in really production and finance. And it's really wild to,
so you can break it down. You have your dashboards. Okay, here's where everything's at. Oh, didn't perform here on YouTube, but it did on Facebook, and the CPMs are higher here, whatever it may be.
I mean, it's got to ingest. There's so many inputs, right? You have a PA running out to go get the like random video game that's like this retro video game, and it goes on an Amex card, and that has to get coded all the way back to that video episode.
Nightmare.
Oh, it's been a ton of work.
Like that, and honestly, it has been a nightmare of sorts until like bringing on Marc to be able to like think through of like, we have all these ideas. What should we focus on? What actually makes sense of how to continue to try to figure out how to build these communities? And we're still in the infancy of it to build all the tools that then can be laid out nicely to be able to be like, okay, great. Now we can just plug something in. But it's been a lot of coding, a lot of model building.
Wow.
It's the only way to build a business isn't full of bullshit, like that isn't like that. I think we're
actually
all tired.
Knowing what you're doing.
I was tired of the bullshit in the digital industry and the like saying this.
And
is
Marc
what
goes way back with like this industry of like having to deal with everybody when he founded Tube Filter and being around every one of the original web series filmmakers and everything. So like it's never stopped. And I think that we finally hit, I think, the absolute like climax of it with last year with the Defies and the Super Deluxes. That was just like, okay, can we all be honest about what we all are? And we actually probably could have gotten farther along at this point if we were all honest the whole time. And that would have but that's not how business works.
Yeah.
It's not how people are.
Well, it's interesting to see right now, like, which businesses are thriving. Mm-hmm. So obviously the creators that are figuring out how to scale, that was the smartest business model. Mm-hmm. Then you have management companies. There's management companies that do a good job, and there's creators that don't build up teams and they need a management company.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's thriving. And then there's companies kind of like Ben, where it's like, tech / specialized agency to help brands navigate the space. For a while there, for a good 5 years, people were just trying to make up business plans and or take on 20 different business plans at the same time. Mm-hmm. It was a horrible business acumen. Mm-hmm. But the ones that ended up thriving and continue to grow are these three that I just listed. And it's because, they're business plans that are proven. They've been around for a long time. And even in this new world, they're thriving. And anyways, I remember, at E3, you mentioning you're bringing on Marc. I was like, wait, you're the CEO. And that's when you know.
I'm stepping down.
That's when you know that you're talking to someone that really is good at business and is all about growth. Is when they're like, okay,
oh, well, thank you.
I need someone else to come in
right.
and take this area over and take it to the next level. I'm going to focus on these other things.
Yeah.
I mean, it shows that you're the business is really important, and you want it just to continue to go up, and you want to just make sure it's doing the best possible, and that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's the kind
egos like me have a hard time doing that sort of thing.
I think it plays into, and like now we're having such great conversations around. It plays around in that like you want to put people that are smarter than you in like either smarter than you overall or smarter than you in various areas that you're not as strong in. You have to figure out how to do that and be humble in that way, because it is like it doesn't work when you're not like that, or you become like Stanley Kubrick or something, and you get multiple documentaries made about you about how two different people gave up their entire lives to literally become your slave. And it's fascinating because it's almost like I would have loved to become Stanley Kubrick's slave in a way. It's like I'm a tireless worker in that way, just like some of these people. But when you see Film Worker or S is for Stanley, the two documentaries about that, it's like, do you really want to be that person that like is that crazy and like that egomaniacal in a way, even though you're brilliant? But like, man, like, do you just want underlings and like that you just like are a dictator for? No, you want to build something that like is an interesting family business, corporation, etc.
And it can live on its own.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's how you can really diversify and try find true growth. Now, I've been very impressed with your operation for a while now. I mean, was it like 9 years ago when we worked together? I never saw this happening.
Yeah.
I thought you guys were just like artsy fartsy, doing a little videos.
I think back then there was a bit more of like that. We had a specific vision. Like we came from the ilk of like Kevin Smith was our god, and we're going to make a feature film every year, and we have ideas that we need to say, and that was all we were going to necessarily do. Versus
you
it being
feel the creativity,
right?
And it's just been amazing to see that channeled and grow like it has. But we've done a good amount of work over the years, business wise, working with different brands. And what are your thoughts? What are the futures there? What is the future of brands working with creators? Is it going to change? Is it going to remain the same way that it has? I mean, what are your thoughts?
I think the market's unsettled right now. I see headwinds, at least for us at the moment, but there's a lot to get into here. You've got what effectively is the commoditization of the influencer category, seeing pricing pressure, and like which is really like you could just like, well, I'll get views over here, I'll get views over here, not thinking about the contextual relevance of what it means. Like because I know when we hit the brand integration on, like we really hit the ball squarely. It's our audience knows it. It's 100% organic, incredible engagement, and there's real follow through. We did it with a dating app recently, and we found a way. And I've never seen we literally put that product on screen for the entire video because you're watching. Because
it is the app.
It was Hinge, the dating app, and the creative was. Our elders were coming in and sort of surprising our college kids who were single, and they were gonna fill out their dating profiles live.
Help them figure out how thirsty should a thirsty pick be? So
it's intergenerational play. They learned what thirst picks were. It's fascinating, and then they're interacting with people, and it makes for a great video and your persistent view of it all. But at the same time, in the market, which is, with MCNs out there sort of basically giving you the massive diner menu of like all of these, or it's MCNs and many other places, agencies and whatnot, giving you like, you get these influencers or those, and not, I don't think telling the story. We realized we needed to tell our story better as a brand. We needed to come out as a brand. And what is FBE? And we're going through this process right now, because I still think we're probably somewhere in a lot of decks, there's a picture of Benny and Rafi Fine, and it says the Fine Brothers. And I guarantee that. And that may be even things that are live in market.
We have people coming up to us saying, "Yeah, we represent exclusively the FBE," and we're We're like, really? Well, there's about 15 people that say that. I mean, that's happening across the board with all the the top 50.
And it's so for us, it's 2019 is a year of actually realizing that we're going to take it into our own hands. We're not going to let other people sell and tell our story, and we have to. It's build direct relationships with brands and agency partners, and think about in my experience, you always want to get ahead, solve problems before it's gotten to the or help construct the problem before the RFP. And I was lucky to be on the agency side. I actually was on the other side of an FBE deal for Cats
Another
React.
one that,
it was, I think
Cats
it's the
React
most
with us.
successful.
It must have worked out.
It was 21 million views.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why I didn't get this offer, huh?
Yeah.
I was fighting for it.
And I'd say that maybe on just the creators overall, I think it's what we always keep all talking about, but seemingly has just not happened, which is it's just the endorsement model, I think, far more like the true lean in with brands to be a part of the relationships with influencers, like people that are by themselves, like the longer relationships. I don't understand why they still aren't happening from both a creator level and then a media company level of truly being able to have a story that you're telling. And I think a company like FBE, where we have vlogs that we put out all the time, and we're having a Snapchat story, and we're having an Instagram story, you could be a part of our DNA. That's what I've said to brands before. It's just you could go ahead and work with somebody that's going to make that one video and maybe buy their true reviews or whatever. It's we actually have a community. We make the content where people actually engage, and you can see it from all the numbers, and we're going to be able to fully make it that we want the audience wants to know that the brand is helping keep the lights on. This is all something that they could be a part of. And I think that they're still just looking at it as the ad hoc, last minute, get the one
Check it off
thing.
the list.
It's like, oh my God. And we've had some great wins by working with Major League Baseball in a long campaign. Crunchyroll has been it's almost like one long campaign, but it's just that every time we just keep we finish one, we're we got to do something else. And
it's probably because it's performing. Crunchyroll, I'm assuming, is very direct response focused.
Yeah.
If it's driving conversions,
correct,
it's working, and that's just going to create a long lasting relationship.
And I just think finding those are what's important. And I think that's the brand relationship, or the brands that are going to be smart enough to understand who's real and who's not, and who to actually lean in far more with.
Well, and it's a process the brand needs to create, on their own. One thing
we should help them build the process.
Exactly.
I'm going to explain that. From my perspective, what we tell the brand is say, look, work with several creators. We'll work with a dozen or a couple dozen. Figure out which ones you work with the most smoothly, which ones perform the best, and then from there, try to create an ambassador partnership where where you can be a part of their DNA and it's consistent, and as they grow, you grow. Yeah. And there's a lot of brands that want to do that, but I think a lot of times they try to do a one-off here or there, and sometimes they miss the target, or they look beyond the mark, and that one-off that they're so stubborn to work with probably isn't the best fit or isn't very passionate about their brand. And that's why you have to diversify, dance with several before you decide to get married.
Yeah. And it needs to be more long-term, too.
Sure.
A lot of it, that one-off is what makes the experience bad in a lot of cases, especially for the audience and especially for the creator. But if it's more of a long-term, hey, we really believe in this company.
Even if it's one-off, it never has to be
It doesn't
bad.
feel like you're trying to get away with something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, one-offs should never be bad. Even if it's just a one-time, sponsorship.
I've seen some pretty bad one-offs.
Well, I'm sure. I have too. But
I bet you have.
But if you come to the table and the brand knows their role in the process, your role in the process, and everything is, you reach a consensus. We call it the consensus triangle, where the brand and the creator, they reach a consensus, and the brand shares the objectives of the vision. The creators come up with a creative solution because what the content needs to be like and how the brand needs to be positioned. And then as a result, the audience is happy. Yeah. And that can happen ongoing with an ongoing relationship, but that can happen within one time. But it needs to happen, if it's going to be a one-time gig or deal, it needs to happen that one time, especially if you want it to be a long-term relationship. Because if you do it right, then the metrics will be there, the data will be there, and if the brand is smart about doing ongoing campaigns and optimization, they'll work with you on
Right.
and for more long term.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So what advice would you have for, I mean, you've done a lot of brand deals and you have a lot of creative out there. What advice would you have for people making the decisions on the brand side, how to work with creators like you guys?
Gosh, great question. I think to sort of just take the time to actually sit down with creators. Hopefully it sounds like it's part of your process. I think the marketplace doesn't actually allow for this to happen that often.
A lot of gatekeeping.
Because I remember when I was on the agency side, we literally brought the client out from St. Louis, sat in the studio, and it was like even the brand was like uncomfortable of how janky the studio was, and how where we're somewhere in the valley, above a 7-Eleven or something. It was
not anymore.
Not new. It was, at the time. At the time, years ago.
It had that right feel to be like, you're here with us, be a part of us. That's what we're doing.
And to be to be open-minded that there's you're actually getting even better expertise in some cases than your agency can give you about what's really happening with sort of internet culture, content, and so
better expertise.
Oh yeah, let's be honest.
We even treat it that way when we're working with a brand, and if they're willing to actually open up, or the agency is willing to let us be in conversation, we treat it like we're inside of a consultancy during that time period. We are teaching them about the algorithm, and because they'll say, oh, whoa, you want this is 11 minutes. Why is it 11 minutes? Can't this be 5? And we're like, no, the algorithms don't work that way anymore. And all of a sudden they can't believe they're getting some of that knowledge and expertise for them to use in the future. And that's how we treat it.
But I guess the advice, to answer your question, would be, it's both ways. I guess it was advice for the brands or advice for the creators.
No, advice for the brands.
It was advice for but to respect what the creator is, that you're getting that level of consultancy, I think is really important, and not look at them as just views or a quick little, just the insignificance of it or the sort of commodity of it all.
My advice would be to try to find somebody that's coming out of this world as best you can to hire and get them into a position of leadership of some sort, or power of their opinion matters. Because I definitely think that we're going, just like how we've all watched over these last 15 years of this, all these people, it's amazing to see where they've all ended up because of the expertise that they've been a part of. And I think, I'm not sure if he's still there, but I remember Will of DC. I can't help but call them by their YouTube name.
He went up to San Francisco.
Ended up over at Ubisoft. But these kinds of things, I think, are going to be so much part of how do you actually find the people that are going to truly understand this, to be able, you get such an edge in that way. And I think all companies are doing that. Even us, we're trying to always look at the people out there to be like, oh man, wouldn't it be great if they would want to work here? Because they know so much, and we're all still doing our own thing. And when somebody, if you're able to get somebody to pop over to your organization, it's incredible. What you now learn every day, and the relationships they have even to open up. How do you help yourself actually understand this better versus starting from zero?
Yeah.
So we've had a really great conversation. I have one last question I think is really important. There's a lot of things that are disrupting the industry and the community. What is getting you guys the most excited? Things that are happening right now that you're like, oh man, this is great.
D2C.
D2C. Commerce, actually the show, it's one thing to hawk somebody else's product, so to speak. It's a totally different thing where the show itself has product built into it, that you own that product and you can sell it to the consumer. Obviously,
you are the brand at all times. You know, and you see that from influencers doing that, from even Jake Paul, Logan Paul, of how they build a brand and they're their own brand. Or Rooster Teeth has been really good about always being about their own brand and being they're the sponsor in a lot of ways. That it's a whole nother way and reason why things have ended up having such a struggle in this industry, because we're trying to live off of the ads per, the CPMs.
Yeah.
And so that's a whole new era coming, is the idea of how do you actually build shows and influence around your own product.
We reorged our company to have a direct-to-consumer department, and there is now a team that focuses entirely on direct-to-consumer. We even acquired a small business that makes pins, enamel pins, called Officially Pinned, and it has Shane's official pin and a whole bunch of other top YouTube talent. So it's for the first time FBE selling something that isn't just a logo slapped on a t-shirt. Because that really wasn't even like a big selling thing for us. It's like buying an NBC t-shirt. It doesn't really mean anything. But I mean, some people buy it. But now and so pins is one thing. You're kind of going down that road. But really where you get into is like, what's our game? I mean, our shows are games, right? There's many ways when you look at like guess that or do they know it? They're like, what's the version that the kid discovered? And maybe they're at college and they bring home for Thanksgiving and now they're playing an intergenerational family game at home, trying to see like, do you know that like 90s reference? And it's keyed in, and every time we have one of those videos pop of what it is, we're also selling you a game. So that's sort of where
I think that's all like, that is whatever you come up with, even what we were talking about, it could be an influencer that's basically like, it's a brand is the influencer. The brand could be whatever the like idea is for a business, but there's content there. It's really anything that a community forms around. And that's now one of the things that you need to have as part of your 23 checkbox list of how to have something that you're not going to burn out and it's going to be possible to keep going forever, is you need something that has revenue diversification. Absolutely. Like it cannot, and that what's great about OTT even and different things has been, oh wow, your content can live on YouTube and Facebook and Snapchat and IGTV soon, and then it gets onto Pluto and then it gets onto here, it gets on there. That's great. The RPM keeps adding up, but it's still not just going to be enough to build a team around and help you not burn out, to be able to be successful and make something that like isn't also going to live or die by an algorithm.
Right. And you guys still do a lot of work where you sell your content to TV and OTT.
Yeah, like we have the various relationships that we have that are with the Plutos and stuff like that to do things like that, but then also making TV shows. Still, like we have a few that are still in development. At any given time, we have ones that are in development. Like I think it's been now that we've sold 17 TV shows into development, 5 that have gone to air. But
that's right there. The industry's colliding.
Yeah,
I mean that's a perfect example of that happening.
Yeah, did we announce the Spring Hill?
Oh, please do.
Yeah, I can't remember whether that's public or not, but I don't think it's that big a deal.
Article,
I think this was in the press, but we so we took our Try Not to Laugh series. Really, Try Not to is sort of the root format there. Partnering with Spring Hill Entertainment, LeBron James's company, and Telepictures, Warner Brothers, to make that a longer form game show. So it may be this. We'll see how it all. It's a development. There's lots of walkthroughs happening. It's in this slow, and it's like
it's a TV
could take
system.
a year.
We're used to it now.
We'll see what it is, but it's exciting because it's IP that's like coming out of and really like creative. It's been battle tested in the short form. We're still continuing to make it. So it's exciting. It's definitely, but at the same time, you look at it and you're like, that's still, you've got low probability of getting picked up. You don't control its fate. You don't control when it's going to get canceled. And you're really like, the margins aren't that great. Whereas like another hit format for us for digital is more valuable than a TV show. And
you can you can know so much faster if it's a viable new P&L to build versus the TV one that's going to be 4 seasons before you go, oh, now it really is making money for you. The TV takes forever because it always starts with a really bad deal. Right. Like you always have a really low amount of money that you make off of that deal. Everybody thinks television shows make you money. And it's like, no, those 17 shows haven't made it.
Turned down TV deals because of that.
Understanding once they actually get it broken down, when it's the biggest ones that you tend to deal with and such, they don't really get what the point is.
I would make way more money just uploading videos every day on my YouTube channel.
And they're going to put in such because I always like to make sure people understand it, because it's not even about the money. It's about them making content. It's about them making something for their audience that have now started following them. And so they end up just realizing the amount of work, because they're going to work insanely hard on that TV show, and they're going to have to go away from the things that they're doing online in so many ways. And that's why there's a big just meme basically about any YouTuber that's talking about a YouTube show, about a TV show, is like, well, they're you're not going to hear from them again. They're going to end up dying as a channel or whatever. It's always becomes a joke because it's happened a few times now.
Well, Article 13 will take care of that.
Oh my God.
I can guarantee you it's going to take care of it.
Look at that. You brought it back.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And having a part of this. It was such an honor for us to have you guys here. And Article 13.
Everyone right here that's watching this podcast, listening to the podcast, please, we need to save memes. That's like the most important thing in all of humanity. Like literally, like you wouldn't be able to laugh. I wouldn't be able to laugh.
Well, thankfully, all of us are not wearing too much of a branded T-shirt right now, because even things like that, like Article 13 can totally be like, well, do you have the rights to that T-shirt?
Right.
Yeah. Do you have rights to T-shirts? Do you have the right to that? You put the poster on in the background. It's like all those things are like all going to come up inside of Article 13.
It's a free speech issue. And this is
crazy.
like the derivative culture is part of how we communicate with each other, and you're actually inhibiting speech. And so I think
that's what Gen Z's a problem. That's how they talk to each other.
Oh,
you're stopping the way that they talk. Yeah. Like
it is so crazy. So like my daughter is just loves memes to death. It's just like everything's meme driven, and I get like 50 memes a day. She's like, oh, you gotta check this out. You know, it's like Star Wars cat or whatever. But when she's like dedicating her life on a mission, and what she's doing for our church that we belong to. She goes out and teaches people, and whatever. So she's like totally off the internet. And we get to talk to her a couple times a year, and we email pretty much every week. And she is going through meme withdrawal. Like literally meme withdrawal. She's like, please, I need memes. It's like
2 a night, Dad, please. It's like 2 hours of TV. Just give me 2 memes.
That's all it is. So I've been I make her a couple memes and then send her a few that's there. But it's really interesting that it's like, that's how they communicate. Like literally that's how they communicate back and forth with each other. And this Article 13, if it takes that away, that's where you're gonna have a lot of disruption. Like a lot of people that are really concerned they can't communicate the way they have been.
We'll open a black market for memes.
Totally. I mean, the dark web.
Yeah, the Silk Road.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on. Really,
thank you.
I've been extremely fascinated with your content. Now I'm more fascinated with your company. I mean, it was just, I had no idea it was this vast. I mean, 82 employees. That's just crazy.
That's amazing.
I don't think I could do 82 employees. Like that.
Any given day.
No wonder why you quit from CEO and hired you. I was like, I want to sleep at night.
I built a process for me to become CEO for a period of time, figure out what that was, and then bring on somebody to take it.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for coming on. It was great. And all of you that are on this podcast, make sure you share this podcast with your friends, because we're here all about disrupting the industry. Because why would we want to be in the standard norm, Ricky? Like, why would we want that? Got to break out of the box.